The backup is presented by one of our top Stitch patrons and the best evil person we know, Walter White. I'm rewatching Breaking Bad right now. That guy ends up being a really big meanie. Spoilers. Sorry, I mean Evil Spy Boy. Get your exclamation mark Spy Boys out in the chat because thanks to his generous Patreon support, Evil Spy Boy is bringing you the backup and he's hoping you bring the generosity to Food Bank Australia. Food Bank provides regular breakfast to more than 1,300... Wait, 1,300, that's not right at all. 132,000 students at schools around the country. And on top of this, more than 200,000 children a week seek relief for food from their charities every month. Donate at foodbank.org.au and head to tasteofmultifish.com for more info about Evil Spy Boy and his proclivities. All right, let's back up and look at the biggest stories of the week as voted on by us. I host the backup, where we back up and look at the biggest stories of the week. Ruby, you are our guest. So can you please start us off with what made you back up and say, hey, that's a pretty big story.
Thank you for letting me go first. I really appreciate it. Considering I'm quite slow, I think it's great that I got to go first anyway. Nice head start, handicap, love it. So my big story is it's like it's big to me.
Yeah, and I think just to you.
Yeah, Garfield.
Mm-hmm.
What about that? Makes you think. Garfield, the Garfield kart and Garfield Kart Furious Racing was made by French developer Microids, and Microids has announced that they are releasing 3 new Garfield games.
Good.
They haven't given any indicator on what these games are actually going to be. But it's very exciting that our horrible orange boy is getting more games. Because the thing is, Garfield games have been coming out since the 80s. I think the first one coming out on the Apple II computer. And I think I'm pretty sure it was called Eat Your Words, Garfield. Or Garfield, Eat Your Words. Order there. But
nice.
It's nice to see that Garfield's getting some new games. Hopefully they will be, compatible with PS5 and Xbox Series X. I want to be able to see Garfield's paws. And not his paws.
So you want to shave that cat?
Yeah. Shave Garfield. That's the game. Shave Garfield.
Now that's
kind of
a game
like
I
a
would play.
hairdresser game, except you're just shaving a cat, and it's not happy about it.
I like that. You go, babe.
I was just going to ask, what our across the board here, what our familiarity with Garfield is, because mine is very minimal. I'm aware that Garfield exists. I've not seen that recent Garfield CG movie. I have not even seen a strip of Garfield in a newspaper. I'm only aware that they exist in newspapers. I don't think they were ever in the Sydney Morning Herald when I was growing up. So how did you find out about Garfield? And obviously it's huge because I'm aware of it even though I've never seen the source. So it's something that transcends its own medium. But what is Garfield? It's just a cat that hates Mondays.
He hates Mondays and he loves lasagna. And he has a very love-hate relationship with his owner, John, and their dog, Odie. I read Garfield a lot when I was a kid. I loved Garfield.
Yeah, right.
It's he's sassy and grumpy and gets away with it, which is exactly what you want when you're a kid.
On a Monday.
He's basically, gets to talk back to John all the time. But it was never really clear whether or not John understood that Garfield was talking or if he was just always coincidentally happening to do the same things as Garfield wanted him to do, but because that's what John was going to do anyway. But I think the best part of Garfield is I think the internet brought him back with the Garfield without Garfield strips, where they just. Oh yeah. You seen those bits?
No, but chat saying check your mic. Maybe you're. Have you got the right mic plugged into vMix?
Yeah, the right mic plugged into vMix.
Yes, people only just started saying it. It's probably just your internet frizzing out a little bit, and we'll recover.
Garfield without Garfield strips is they took the Garfield strips and then someone just removed Garfield from it, and so it's just John talking to nobody and answering nobody, and it makes him looking completely insane. They're phenomenal. I think it's very strange.
Very sad.
I think it's very strange that they've announced we're producing 3 more Garfield games. I did a quick bit of research about this one, and there were barely any reviews I could find of this game. I did not remember this even coming out. Nintendo Life gave this a 2 out of 10. So far, not a great track record. But Ruby, what are you looking for from a Garfield game?
Survival horror.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I think the thing is, like,
I love that.
they could go one of two ways, in my personal opinion. Realistically, they could go any way they want because you can literally do anything you want ever. But in my opinion, they could go one of two ways and, like, go with, like, the motion of Garfield Kart Furious Racing and create another few clone games. And maybe be successful, but also Garfield Kart Furious Racing was not successful. So, like, maybe. Or they could go in the complete other direction, and maybe cater to the online crowd who loves Garfield. Because, like, the online crowd, they love Garfield without Garfield. They love Garfield smoking a pipe, Garfield being thrown out the window. I'm Sorry, John, which is, like, a subsection of, like, Garfield, I guess, like, fan fiction and fan art, which kind of
is that like the deep fried meme stuff? Like it's like really dark.
It's very like is it SCP Foundation? Like very very creepy horror, like body horror, Cronenberg type Garfield. Which I live for. I think that's fantastic. And if they went in that direction, it'd be very funny and also completely out of left field. Like, I don't think anybody would expect it, but I think it'd be hilarious. It's also possible that they'll go in the direction of making a tie-in game for the upcoming Garfield movie where Chris Pratt is doing the voice of Garfield, strangely enough. But this, like...
Garfield and Mario?
Yeah, Garfield and Mario, the same
monopolizing.
voice actor.
Awful.
It's horrid. You hate to see it. But it's funny because at least he knows what he's getting into, while with the 2004 Garfield film, Bill Murray only decided to be a part of Garfield 2004 because he thought it was being made by the Coen brothers when in fact it was not being made by the Coen brothers and was just another director with another writer, I think, with the last name Cohen.
Yeah, amazing.
Which is very funny.
That's so funny.
Imagine being tricked into a Garfield movie.
Well, it's because he doesn't. It's because we're going off a huge tangent here, but it's because Bill Murray doesn't really have an agent or a manager. You just call up a number and leave a voicemail describing what you want him to do in your film, and then he responds to the ones that he's interested in. That's actually how you get in contact with Bill Murray. So, look, the man has only himself to blame. I think a tie-in with the film is definitely ahead. What I think is interesting is that Garfield is a series. Like, kids today don't know who Garfield is. So making a kids game seems slightly strange because you're paying for this IP, but it's not like I guess it would be bought by the parents for the kids, but it's not something the kids are already interested in, so there's already a built-in audience there.
It's not Bluey.
And it's not Bluey. Like, you're not making a Bluey game. But then making it for parents. Parents don't, not parents, but just like people our age and older. It's like, well, we're not interested in playing a kids game, so make the Pony Island Inscription version of Garfield. Like, fuck him up. And the license is probably not going to do that. So it just feels like they're kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't. But hopefully they pull it off, because I do think that Garfield has, like, as a comic strip, a lot of charm. A cat eating a lasagna is always cute, and the sort of like the sassy, irreverent tone that he has fits in with today's internet culture. He was way ahead of his time, Garfield. So hopefully,
well, that's the thing. Garfield is still going. Like, it has been consistently a daily comic since, like, I think 1976. Well, 1976 was when John was published, which was like the original iteration of Garfield, but then it was 1978 where Garfield became Garfield, and it's been a daily comic since then. Incredible. Like, it's still going. Like, I remember watching Garfield and Friends as a kid, like the animated show, and I was like, haha, hee hee, this is funny. I hate you, Normal. But
Normal.
and then watching See, like, my friend loves Normal. She's like, Normal is cute, Normal is funny, but we all hate Normal. Like,
We all hate Normal.
I don't know who you're
We're
talking
all
about. I might
Garfield.
like
We all
Normal.
hate Normal. Oh, Pete. It's okay if you like Normal.
Nice.
Okay, cool. Well, that is the Garfield.
There's
game coming out.
there's no slate of release yet, is there? It's just theoretical 3
Yeah.
Garfield games on the horizon.
Yeah, it's like we'll
Exciting
probably
times.
have a Garfield movie game. We'll probably have a survival horror SCP Foundation type Garfield game.
Yeah,
Maybe dress up Garfield.
a MOBA. Oh yeah,
Dress up Garfield for a date.
I like
That's
that.
my
that'd be nice.
And I think they're leaving money on the
We'll see.
table if there's not a Cooking Mama style cooking game. Like you could
You
like you
only
could
make
legit do it.
lasagna.
You only make lasagna. You could legit do like a co-op-y sort of overcooked situation with all the Garfield characters and blah blah blah. So that could totally work. Okay, cool. Well, Ruby, you'll have to come back when they announce what these games actually are and let us know what's
course.
going on. Pete, in the meantime, from one massive IP to another, what is your the story this week that made you back up and go, "Well, that's a big story."
And interestingly enough, 3 games as well. 3 new Star Wars games coming from Respawn. Respawn, obviously, Apex Legends, Titanfall, were given the opportunity to make Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Probably the only highly praised EA Star Wars game from the last... Squadrons did alright as well, but we don't talk about Battlefront anymore. So the deal between EA and Star Wars was announced, I can't remember, like 2014 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And that partnership actually ended a couple of years ago now. And I feel like that was just a threat from Disney. Just like, we don't have to give it to you anymore, EA. But obviously Respawn a reasonably safe bet for Devon some Star Wars after Jedi Fallen Order. They are working on a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. Game director Stig Emerson is back. There's an untitled first-person shooter game based on Star Wars being overseen by Peter Hirschman, who worked on the original Battlefront games, which are lauded, and also The Force Unleashed, which was an interesting title. I didn't think it was brilliant, but it was it had its good moments. And the third one is a strategy game being developed, co-developed by BitReactor, who are former XCOM devs. So there's a lot of pedigree attached to these titles, all being made out of Respawn, one being a co-developed game. So potentially exciting times for solid Star Wars games coming out soon.
I feel like the Star Wars, the new Star Wars thing at Disney is they've stopped being protective of the IP and they're just throwing it at everyone to see what sticks. Because there's these 3 games. Obviously, there's all the series and stuff that they're doing through Disney Plus. There's tons of films coming out to varying levels of critical and audience acclaim. But then with the games, we've got these 3. There's massive, have an untitled Star Wars game coming out. Ubisoft are doing a Star Wars game. There's Eclipse coming from Quantic Dream. They're remaking Knights of the Old Republic as well. And then apparently there's also a Zynga sort of like free-to-play Star Wars Hunters game. Do you think that there's a danger level of like oversaturation with this where Star Wars used to be something special and now we're just going to be getting so many things that it's just like waters down that? Or because we haven't had too many great games in the last 10 years from the Star Wars franchise, it's overdue? Because it seems like it should be easy to make a good Star Wars game, but apparently it isn't.
Ruby, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you could say the same thing about like all the Star Wars TV shows coming out on Disney Plus as well. There definitely is like an oversaturation. It's like hopeful because like it's very much like if you release a whole bunch of Star Wars games, chances are at least one of them is going to be really good. You know, like the others might be kind of mid, but like one of them's got to be good, you know? Like I'm hoping personally for the strategy game that they do like a Star Wars Rabbids type situation where the Rabbids are involved.
Yeah.
Like everyone looks like high definition, and then like the rabbits are just there. That being
Yeah,
said,
right, okay.
Mario Rabbids, fantastic strategy game.
Yeah, that's
But,
true.
like,
It worked for that.
it very much seems like there's kind of the strategy of like one of them's got to be good, one of them has to hit, and maybe they'll all hit and be really good. I think there are probably a fair few Star Wars fans that have kind of been like grasping for content and like desperate for it, but then also feel incredibly overwhelmed by just how much content is coming out. Like, oh, Glup Shido has a new side project. That's cool. Like, it's for me personally. I as a RuPaul's Drag Race fan, I felt myself being very overwhelmed by just how many different iterations were coming out at once.
Of course.
And then as a Star Wars fan, I kind of feel the same thing. Like, I loved The Mandalorian, and then after like 10, 15 other shows were announced, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm totally the same. I really liked Fallen Order. I thought Fallen Order was a really fun game. Respawn just make great games. So I feel like out of that entire list of people who have been given the Star Wars license to make things, I trust these people the most to do it well. The sequel to Fallen Order, obviously they're working on. And I just see someone in chat, where was it? It was Strom55 said, I want an R18 Star Wars game. And I agree that, like, that's the thing for me, which I'm constantly saying, that I want Star Wars to experiment with the kinds of stories that they tell, to not always be telling that same sort of like Chosen One style thing. The Eclipse Quantic Dream game at least looked different to things that I'd seen in the Star Wars sort of oeuvre before. So maybe that first person shooter one is going hard in a different direction and, doing something totally different. And yeah, I like the idea of the strategy game. I love those sort of XCOM games. I agree, Mario and Rabbids, fantastic game, something that you would never think would have worked and totally did. And Star Wars has all the building blocks there to make something like that. So it's good news for you, Pete, because you're always gagging for this stuff.
Not really.
Yes, you are. You're a massive Star Wars nerd who knows they've been done dirty for years.
No, I don't really feel like that. I don't like.
Excuse me. Let me tell you how you feel, Peter.
Stop gaslighting Pete now.
Yeah, no. The R18 game, I don't think is like the plan. I think like they know their audiences are 30-somethings that are tragics and kids, and the 30-somethings that are tragics are watching kid stuff anyway. Like, that's Star Wars. It's always been kid stuff, and that's what I love about it as well. But I don't think they will go more mature. I think we'll see Quantic Dreams thing be a little bit more in the Quantic Dream like vein. Yeah, but I think we're more likely to see things pitched younger and more playful and potentially more simple, and that's cool too. So like Emerald Space Cop says, it will be more the equivalent of young adult novel. I think that's always what they pitch for, because it is the most approachable to the broadest part of their audience, which means potentially more success. I do like that they are playing with a strategy game, the
XCOM style thing,
Galactic War. I can't remember. Galaxy at War was a classic strategy game, Star Wars strategy game years ago. XCOM, obviously, a little bit different strategy. It's not so much like a big broad space battle. It's more like intimate. So I'd like to see that, and I think Star Wars characters lend themselves well to that. You got guns and swords and force powers and stuff. So I think that a reskin of an XCOM game in Star Wars is a bit of a no-brainer. But none of these things sound particularly like exciting in being a new kind of thing to me. It's all been done before. It's just they're doing a new version of it. So like, I think hopefully they're all good, and they're all good in the different genres that they're playing in. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, cool.
They're in good hands with Respawn, but
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing that's most exciting to me about this entire thing is that Respawn are just making more video games. That's all I really need from them as a developer. So then my big story this week, also 3 games. What are the chances that this happened? And that is that the next 3 Call of Duties are headed to PlayStation. And despite the Microsoft buyout of Activision Blizzard King. And they're also developing a new Warzone. So there's just so much shit happening with Activision at the moment. Cock-blocking union efforts and Kotick managing to get his massive golden parachute, the buyout, which now we can't talk about or no one's going to be talking about for months and months and months until it all actually goes through. But there was an investor call where they were talking about what is happening with the future of Call of Duty. Apparently, the next COD to be developed is a sequel to Modern Warfare, which is exciting for Call of Duty fans because that's probably been the highest rated COD in the last decade. But people were wondering what's going to happen when it comes to PlayStation and how they're going to be getting Call of Duty games. And it looks like that they will be getting the next 3 games are guaranteed to be released on PlayStation. After that, who knows? And I do think it's like, I would be very surprised if after that, PlayStation get the full Call of Duty experience that has happened before with the Microsoft buyout. And I've seen a lot of people talk about the options that could be going on here, one of which being you release the multiplayer everywhere, and then you have like single player campaigns that only come out on Game Pass or something, or the much more unlikely thing, but something that I know that Microsoft would be wanting, which is eventually putting Game Pass on PlayStation as a service, and basically using Call of Duty as the dangling carrot to PlayStation to go like, you don't get this unless it comes through Game Pass for you. We were not doing the show. We were still on holidays when the big Microsoft news buyout got announced. But Ruby, what do you think about the idea of what's the future of Call of Duty? I don't know if you're a COD fan or not, or what you think needs to happen with it.
I'm sorry, I'm not a COD fan, but I do know what Call of Duty is. I've seen it before in the stores and also on the computer and other devices. And I've seen it played. And you know what? I have played it myself. Not my cup of tea. Is this like the second Modern Warfare 2 that they're releasing, or am I misremembering?
Yeah, no, there was a Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah,
so
Brave.
Yes, correct.
Brave.
Yeah, Brave.
That's great.
Yeah, this is Modern Warfare 2. Yeah.
Yeah, Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah.
Everyone's a ballerina.
Now that would be great.
Totally different game.
That's the skins I want in COD for sure.
Yeah, and you like shoot at people's feet and they just like start doing a pirouette.
Love it.
I think, I honestly, in my professional opinion, I honestly think it would be like they would lose so much money taking it off of PlayStation, especially considering the situation that people are in now, where like even though people can't really get much access to a PlayStation 5, Xboxes are also pretty difficult to get your hands on. So if they decided to make Call of Duty console specific, you'd be whittling it down to an already pretty small crowd. Like I think it's hard to say that Call of Duty will definitely be multi-platform forever, because it's always been multi-platform, because at the same time, you know, many a Bethesda game were multi-platform for the longest time, and then suddenly no. So like it's hard to say whether they'll like definitely keep it multi-platform, but I feel like they'd lose so much money because like Call of Duty is successful on pretty much every console that it's available on, and you'd be cutting out such a large part of the market that it just doesn't seem completely realistic. And then at the same time, like they are competitors, but we also have to remember that like big games companies are constantly working together.
Yeah.
Constantly. Yeah. Like they are constantly in cahoots.
Yeah. And it's been Microsoft's play over the last, under the Phil Spencer control, to get Xbox to be a platform, not just a console, and get Xbox across as much hardware as possible. So,
oh yeah,
you know, like, I Spencer, I think would want Xbox Game Pass to be in the PlayStation Store.
God, it'd be funny. It'd be so funny.
I wouldn't be surprised if after the 3-year contractual agreements are passed, that's the play that Spencer is trying to make. Is like, if you want COD on your console, put the Game Pass app on there and they can launch it through that.
There's also Phil Spencer, his title got changed. He stopped being head of Xbox and he's now head of Microsoft Gaming. And I did see some discussion about the idea that means that it's less about Xbox and it's more about like Microsoft just going, okay, we're platform agnostic in some ways because we're even though they spent a fortune getting this, there's ways that they can juice it so that it's better on Game Pass. There's like exclusives that you can get, skins that you get, like all that sort of crap. Like you can get maps 2 weeks early or whatever by playing on Game Pass as opposed to PlayStation. But at the end of the day, like you said, Ruby, it's not like they're not warring countries. They're just like different platforms. Ultimately, they all want the best for themselves, but they don't want to necessarily crush and destroy the other person. Or maybe they do. Maybe they just put on a really good front, and we just we don't understand that. The other thing that came out of this story is that apparently Activision are developing a Warzone 2, which is just like the most Activision thing I can possibly think of. They already had a battle royale. I can't even remember what it was called. I think it was it one of the Black Ops?
Activision had one?
Yeah, Call of Duty, like the.
Yeah. Black Ops had.
It was called like
not Warzone.
Yeah, it was called like Dark Zone, Blackout.
Gus is on it.
Thank you very much, Gus. They already had one, and then they released Warzone, and people were like, "Why are you doing this?" And then they obviously keep rebooting their multiplayer every year to have to buy the new one. It seems insane that they're making an actual sequel to this about whether or not like. People who've been playing Warzone for years bought all these skins, put all this money into it. That's transfer over to a new version of the game. Who knows? I also think that this is potentially something that's like I don't know. Like I don't know anything about how these businesses run, but maybe it's in the planning now. It's being developed, but when Microsoft take it, there's some sort of like change to that because that also goes against the Microsoft ethos. Microsoft are really about live games right now. This has got such a huge focus on games as a service, getting people in repeating, recurring purchases within platforms. And it just seems crazy to release official sequels to things that potentially leave a lot of that behind. So Activision just continuing to baffle people. And
well, the thing as well is like it also begs the question of like who's developing it. Like, is it going to be Raven? And is there potentially like some kind of connection between like their decision to make a new Warzone game to kind of make up for the fact that kind of there have been issues with like gameplay and connection with the first Warzone, but that's because the Raven software team were on strike because of issues in terms of like being treatment at work and then like ridiculous layoffs. And they still weren't heard, which is so crazy to me. It begs the question of like, is a Warzone 2 coming to kind of like, shove it to the side a little bit? I mean, speculation, of course, speculation. But like, it's interesting that they would announce that instead of just, I don't know, working on Warzone and maybe like listening to the demands of their workers.
Letting them unionize.
Yeah, maybe.
Particularly when you see how well GTA Online has been doing for so long.
Yeah.
Like it's just a money-making machine. And why disrupt that? It seems like such an odd thing, and we're going to talk about this in a bit, about the idea of buying cosmetics in games and, Ubisoft with their quartz bullshit. But the reason people invest in games is because they love the title. I've spent thousands of dollars in Dota, a free game. I've spent a couple of $100 in Halo, and I don't even like any of the cosmetics. It's just like my investment in the thing that I'm enjoying, and that's what's happening in Warzone as well. There's teams working on cool stuff. People are like, oh yeah, cool. I want to spend. People want to spend. This is the market we live in.
Yeah.
Where you get gratification just buying something these days because that's how sad our lives are. If you're not shopping on Amazon, you may as well be buying a skin in Call of Duty because you're playing a bunch of Call of Duty.
Yeah,
and you just want that little hit of dopamine from going like, yeah, now I look like Bruce Willis.
And you build
like
up.
Bruce Willis.
I know, and I don't even like Bruce Willis, and I'm still like, oh god, I probably should have bought that just in case I ever somehow develop an affection for Bruce Willis late in his career. And also like you have a library of stuff that you own, so the more that you build that up, it's that sunk cost fallacy of going like, well, I've already got all this, but you put out something new. It's like, do you really want to start that over? Like Hearthstone. I spent thousands of dollars on Hearthstone cards. I fell off the game. I haven't played in a couple of years, but I'm like, I can't go to another card game now and start investing. I have all this money just sitting there in this like digital like safe that I don't access anymore. So when you launch something new, you're just throwing all that out the window, and it just seems fucking nuts. But yeah.
Yeah, and you know, the Halo is apparently going to be a 10-year platform. GTA is just about there as being a 10-year platform. And
the thing is, they're so successful, and like it's a testament that to the success that like people are actively working on it and putting in the time and effort to keep the game going, be it from, you know, the modders, the community, and then also the developers. Like, they continue to thrive and they continue to make money because they're actually putting the effort in. So why would you...
Yeah, and it comes back to that audience understanding of like, I am putting a bunch of time into this, and the reward for me is not owning the skin, like, because you don't own anything digital. The reward is that I'm supporting the thing that I'm getting a lot of joy out of, and I think that's a good balance. You know, that means that people are putting in what they feel they're getting out of it, and not and knowing that a game has certain legs is part of what allows people to do that. And if they, same deal with Overwatch 2, another Activision decision. It's like, and Destiny 2, another Activision decision. Like, you're really just like disrupting your own market, which seems odd. Gus said that the Warzone engine was not really built for updates. I don't believe that's true. Any title can get updated, whether it's like, I understand there's a different engine, but the Warzone engine feels better to me than which one was it that had the other engine? The very next game, wasn't it?
It was
Cold War?
Yeah, Cold War. They could alternate between the two,
Yeah. So, you know, maybe they need one in the other engine, and both can live together. But I don't really see why they would, because it's not going to get the hype that they hope it will, of going another.
Well, particularly you look at something like Fortnite, and Fortnite manages to completely reinvent itself as constantly new games, but you don't lose the fucking Spider-Man skin that you got in the last season. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Just crazy decisions from Activision almost consistently over the last 5 years. Every single thing they've done, you've gone, how are you still managing to stay in business? How are you still a company that people could possibly ever invest anything in? But there you go. And then to round out the news, some announcements and delays as well. We got an announcement that a new Crysis is on the way, Crysis 4. Crytek put out a teaser trailer that came after there was a leak on social media in China about the game. Apparently still massively early in development, and it will be, quote, a while yet. It's a very stylized, dramatic, building crumbling trailer, and there's a sun, and at the end it says, join the journey, become the hero. I have zero interest in Crysis. I don't even understand why people like Crysis other than can it run Crysis, which now everything can run Crysis. Like, that's the only thing that game has going for it.
Well, that's not entirely fair. It's not particularly interesting as a story, but they always felt great as PC shooters. Mm-hmm. Interesting abilities and really, really snappy shooting. They were fun to play, although felt pretty like surface level, as far as story and even really like even combat. You just felt like a superhero crushing stuff. So
yeah, they
that was
looked
cool.
good, but I was never never interested in the art design of the thing as well. It just looked like they always look like, which is the most damning thing I can say, a video game that you would develop for an episode of Law and Order SVU. That the killer was the kid who played video games, and Crysis was the game that the kid played.
And he was played by Logan Paul. Yes,
he was played by Logan
Yeah.
Paul. Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then a couple of delays. Delay to Life is Strange Remastered Collection was supposed to be coming out on the Switch this week, along with its Xbox, PlayStation, PC versions. The Switch version has been delayed to later this year. Apparently, they ran into some hiccups, and also delayed from February. Evil Dead, the video game, that game was supposed to be coming out in February, and will now be coming out on May 13th in 2022. So those are the delays that we have to deal with this week, and that is literally all the video game news that happened this week. There's nothing else you need to know.